I'm so happy that guy got fired, by the way. We're sticking with the story that the guy who made Ladros is gone.
What do you mean sticking to the story? That's a fact. That's a fact. I heard it on the casuals of Runeterra. I know it to be true.
Those guys are never wrong.
They haven't been wrong once.
They just don't miss. They just don't miss. Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 7. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hetch.
He keeps bringing me back.
Keeps bringing
me back in.
I hope now that we're far enough where people have forgotten your real name, where now you have to be an OG, right? We're 7 episodes in. Oh my goodness. It feels like it was just yesterday.
Anyone confused by that, please go check out episode 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then come back and you'll have all the knowledge you need.
Just listen to it all, please.
Just please. We need the support. Housekeeping up top, man. As usual, you can listen to us everywhere now. We're on all the platforms. Let us know if we missed one. YouTube, we're there too. Those videos usually go up a little bit after the upload of everything else because it takes a little bit of time. You can follow us on Twitter. That's the only thing we're on social media wise. That's what we like. So we'll be hanging out there and doing retweets and such. So follow us there to keep up to date with episodes if you want. At podcastcore, that's COR. And you can also send us an email at podcastcore@gmail.com for all the fun antics we have at the end of the episode. If you want to join in on that, definitely send us the emails and we'll mention them on the subsequent episode. And then always please leave a like, follow, short review, comment, emojis,
Fun.
6-star. We're still
Fun
going for
antics.
We're still trying to be the
Fun
6-star
antics.
podcast.
The Hetch's ransom notes. That's what this is
I know.
turning into. Yeah. I got a surprise for you. Ah, crap.
I bet the listeners love it to see what he's going to get. I got one for this episode as well. Don't worry. I'm always prepared. So tell a friend how you were married to your new favorite podcast, Casuals of Runeterra. Stay in the game. Stay in the game.
Stay in the game.
All right, so
Don't
I'm
look so
playing.
pleased.
Yeah, mine's fairly short. I'm playing a discard aggro deck that was posted by Swim a while back, and this was after all the tournaments, those small tournaments happened. Because what I've noticed, and as I was drinking, that fact is important. Listen, everyone is playing that damn Elise deck or that Elise Ezreal variant of spiders. And it's so, I'm fine with the characters themselves. And we won't go too far into the champions. I like Ezreal. I like Elise, but that deck is so non-interactive that it feels like people found a way to bring up the part of Hearthstone into another game that we don't like is the non-interaction. Like, why would you play? And some people are playing that deck because it's easy, right? And I say easy, it can be played at a high level. I'm just saying that it's very easy to not have to just answer, or all you do is answer your opponent.
Instead of easy, like the
What
polite way of saying it would be linear.
Yeah, it's very linear.
You step 1, step 2, like what you're gonna do, and you just repeat that every game.
Yeah, answer your opponent's enemies. Create spiders for cheap, chump block, whiteboard, repeat, play Ladros. I'm so happy that guy got fired, by the way. We're sticking with the story that the guy who made Ladros is gone.
What do you mean sticking to the story? That's a fact. That's a fact. I heard it on the casuals of Runeterra. I know it to be true.
Those guys are never wrong.
They haven't been wrong once.
They just don't miss. They just don't miss. What are you playing, Hedge?
I have been really enjoying the Callista buff. Well, the second buff now. But now that she only has to see 3 enemies die, I've been building a couple decks, and instead of making a spicy one, I just made a really solid Shadow Isles Demacia aggro deck, pairing her with Lucian.
Okay.
And it is brutal. it legitimately is kind of terrifying. Because with the change now that she only has to see 3 followers die, it makes the card Haunted Relic more than viable now. So Haunted Relic I never saw anyone play it, and now because it's a 2-mana slow spell for 3/1/1s that die. But all of a sudden, now if you have that in your opening hand on turn 3, you can play Callista and flip Callista. And then a flipped Callista from the get-go that's pretty much GG.
It's powerful.
It's super powerful, and it feels like I can, like with that, usually if I get the God Hand turn 6, we're probably looking at into the game. But she's already the kind of champion that can fight a dragged out fight too. So it's good. Like this is one that I'm confident in saying, like, if y'all want to check out something that Hetch is playing that you might actually win with, this is the one.
You were very proud of this. You kept me in the loop as you're trying it out, because it started off as a meme. You actually talked about it in the episode when we were talking about Shadow Isles, and then you were like, "I'm gonna try it," and you did, and it kind of got progressively better and better. You're starting to see it kind of pop up in other deck lists as well.
I did it, you guys.
Did it, Mom.
I won a game.
So you heard it here first, guys. This whole time he's been losing. He won his first game on episode 7.
Why aren't Poros viable?
I immediately thought about your Poro mount from last episode, and if you haven't listened to episode 6, go listen to it. Anyways, main topic: Beauty and the Beast, the foul beast. I'm just joking. Tryndamere's not that foul. But anyways, main topic. So we're going to talk about Ashe and Tryndamere this episode. So Freljord. We're in the Freljord. Previous episode, we talked about Sejuani as that being the new card coming out. So that was a natural connect to this next region we want to focus on because this is where my wife is from. And
oh my is this what I sound like?
is this what I sound like? But we start with the small stuff first. So let's go into spells. The spell that stood out to me is probably the first tutor ability we've talked about on this show. There's not many of them. And this is Entreat. It's a 2-cost burst spell. It simply says draw a champion. And the quote here is from an Avarosan sentry. And the thing I like about this is it connects to the Avarosan story where Ashe is from. That's her tribe, which is a tribe that's a little more organized than other ones, especially once she takes it over. And it kind of plays into the, sentries are a big deal. Scouts are a big deal in any type of like military structure. But Avarosans have a nailed down system because they're considered what is rich. Right? When I say rich, is mean like their people aren't hungry. They have shelter. They can rely on certain things. They have a proper tracking team. They have a proper sentry team. They have a proper archer scout team. Like they're an established tribe. They behave almost like a city army. And that's what a lot of other tribes hate. We'll get into that.
And I think it really is important. We can set this in, put this as a foundation now. This is going to be a lot different from the other regions because it is not like a city. Whereas Demacia, you have the capital city, Demacia. Freljord, they just looking for lunch, man.
Just trying to eat.
It's we have a hut, we rich.
Yeah, people who are familiar with Game of Thrones, very popular series, the way the North was handled in Game of Thrones is very similar to how these northern tribes are handled here.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming. We're gonna get sued now. Are we gonna get sued?
No. YouTube taught me that it's less than 30 seconds. Is good, right?
I don't think that applies. All right, Hetch, what's your spell? We're not.
So my
quick
spell
before the lawsuit comes.
Yeah, my spell is a little bit on the nose for the episode because it's going to be the Iceborne Legacy, which is perfect while we talk about the legacy that is Ashe and Tryndamere. But the spell itself, if speaking directly to the game, has been has seen some love because it has been buffed or at least changed. I think technically it was a buff, but it's a 5-mana slow spell, and it grants an ally and all allied copies of it everywhere +2/+2. And it's one of the first times really that like outside of the Mistwraith decks,
Mhm.
where because there weren't a lot of there was not a lot of mechanics that were playing around with the whole everywhere idea of the
Yep. Miss Wraiths,
mechanic.
Marauders are
And
pretty much the only two.
and then like after the Iceborne Legacy changed, all of a sudden it was like, okay, you better have removal for these 1/1 spiders, because if you don't, they're going to become 3/3s, and then they're going to become 5/5s.
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap.
It's that momentum style.
For anyone who hasn't really gotten to play around with anything that does the everywhere thing, it doesn't matter if it's a card in your deck. It doesn't matter if you're creating essentially what's a token, or if you're creating a token from your graveyard, or well, the Runeterra graveyard.
Yeah, which still needs some work.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter where this copy is coming from. It's buffed. Like it's really cool mechanic. And the Freljord itself is just so tied into lore that it might as well be, if we're bringing up a legacy, it's going to be big.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big effect.
Yeah. So let's go into some of the followers here. We'll start with Scarmother Vrina Verna.
Yeah. Okay.
Vrina. I think it's
if
Vrina.
anyone has listened to our previous episode, I'm tempted to say no names again.
No names.
we're going to be embarrassing ourselves on this episode, so just hang in there with us.
I'm going to bring up what I said last episode for anybody who didn't hear, where for the Freljord, I like to go with hard sounds because that's the way it seems like all the names are catered towards. So I'm going to go with Vrina, right? That feels right. And she's a 6-cost, 3/8, so big old booty. With Overwhelm, that when I survive damage, grant me +3/+0. Scarmothers and the concept of earning your stripes, essentially, in Freljord culture is all about doing battle. You will notice that a lot of both men and women in the tribes, from an artistic standpoint, don't have perfect faces. They're usually scarred or beaten up, or they have, leftover battle wounds. And that's because that's kind of a proof of your worth, especially for War Mothers. And Vrina here, I brought her up. The main reason I chose her is because Freljord is really tight when it comes to lore, right? And this fits into the concept that not just her, because we really haven't gotten anything from her yet on the lore side that I know of, but we have seen other War Mothers respond to Ashe's ways. So I'm going to get to talking about Ashe in a bit, and about how Ashe is challenging the status quo of how to run a tribe, right? How a tribe should be constructed, and what matters to her versus the standard barbaric view of things. She's like the next generation of War Mothers. And Vrina here is one of them that does not like it, as you can tell by her quote. "I would die shivering in the cold before sharing a hearth with Ashe's weaklings. But if they desire warmth, I will give it to them." Meaning fire.
Yeah.
She's on that Sejuani train when it comes to dealing with problems.
If anyone is interested in Hetch's opinion on this one, step on me, mommy.
Step. God. I wasn't ready. All right, let's get into your fun follower, because I think everybody loves this guy.
Okay, like this was
Teeth like tombstones.
We could not say that we are a Runeterra podcast if we're going to go into the Freljord and not try to say that a follower for one of our episodes is going to be the Babbling Bjerg himself. All right. As far as the card, the Babbling Bjerg is a 4-mana 3/3. When I'm summoned, to draw a unit with 5+ power. I mean, Freljord is really one of the strongest areas, if not the only area outside of one Noxus card that has tutoring. And this is 2 tutor cards already that we're seeing in the region, as far as just talking about this episode.
Unity Tribe.
I mean, even outside of like how much fun the character is, like the Babbling Bjerg is a lot of fun, but
you've got to believe me.
Yeah, bar the doors. But the outside of how much fun he is, like it's like the Freljord is so steeped in like myth and lore from the written concept. Like this is a people that are very much entrenched in tradition and stories. So the Babbling Bjerg is, he's a crazy loon, but he's coming into the bar with these tall tales.
Yeah.
And it's, it kind of really still, in a fun way, shows what the Freljord is like.
Especially
at least a side of it.
Especially where we get in the stories, we have stories of the Earth sign, right? And these mystical beasts that are out there. And so it makes sense. But yeah, he's a drunkard. But he was once a great adventurer, which you kind of see through the other art in the game.
Yes.
Maybe we'll get enough where we'll do a whole episode on the Babbling Beard himself.
And if you're ever bored and
Yeah.
you want to have yourself a fun laugh, you go into your Runeterra client and open the full art for the Babbling Beard.
Yeah.
And just have yourself a chuckle, because that bartender is not having it. She is not having it. She is so done with this guy. And I love the card. Love it.
So let's get into our main characters for this episode, right? Which are Ashe and Tryndamere. So we're gonna start with Ashe, because she's one of the biggest influence on the Freljord. I'll say it. Challenge me. Don't at me.
I mean, who can challenge it? Like, the more that we dig into the lore of the Freljord, she really is a centerpiece.
Yeah, and I put here, Ashe is Jon Snow, kind of, just for the Game of Thrones reference.
So you want us to get sued?
So I want us to
it
get
started
sued.
As your joke, but you're like, come on, please, Mr. Martin.
I'm gonna put in the episode tags Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Just to get more hits, baby.
Yeah.
But no, so Ashe grew up in a situation where her mother was super obsessed with, these tales of the Avarosian throne and the bow and, gods and light and all these different things. And she was constantly putting the tribe in these long treks to go look for essentially what would be fool's gold, right? These wild goose chases that resulted in their tribe slowly dwindling down. And Ashe kind of challenges that because her mom is in this obsession. And it turned out, if you read the comics, that her mom was essentially trying to find the throne for her, right? She wanted to leave her daughter a legacy. Because her mother was known as, one of the strongest, well-known war mothers. But as far as progressive, she wasn't that. So Ashe, who always challenged her, she wanted to be able to give Ashe something to continue. It's almost like she was going to feed Ashe's legacy. But she didn't want to let Ashe in on that, right? Kind of thing. Who knows if that was a spur in the moment before death situation. But anyways, what ended up happening was their tribe got betrayed by their frost priest, which we talk about in the Sejuani episode about their influence on tribes. They were betrayed. Her tribe was wiped out besides her. She was left alone, and she escaped with the help of finding the actual bow, finishing her mom's journey, which granted her, first of all, white hair, because the cold, that true North coldness, ran through her blood, turned her hair white, and then also granted her these extreme archery powers.
Is it because the cold never bothered her anyway?
Hetch, we just talked about getting sued. How many properties are we going to target?
We can't take on Papa Mickey.
All right, I'm putting Frozen in the tag as well.
Game of Thrones, Frozen, Toy Story.
So
every tag.
So the second half of Ashe's story comes up with her overlap with Sejuani, where she's on the Ice Sea, which is a dangerous place to survive, but she is iceborn, which means that she's able to survive harsher environments naturally. And she meets with Sejuani. Their whole story is they grew up together until there's a feud between her mother and Sejuani's grandmother, split the tribe again, so they haven't seen each other forever. They meet up, and then we get to go into Sejuani's story, find out her background, but it all results in them creating this illegitimate blood oath that ends up becoming broken when Ashe witnesses how Sejuani wants to deal with outside tribes, because she just wants to get rid of any more mouths to feed, where Ashe wants to bring everybody together to make them more valuable, like get all the outcasts, which ironically makes her similar to Darius.
Yeah.
In a weird way. And I can't wait till we get to the Noxus region to talk about that, because they both have that concept of the little guy rising up and letting the strongest kind of survive rather than trying to, just eliminate people to make sure you're all right.
Yeah, it's a common theme as far as the way that Riot is portraying the leader type characters, is the ones that are all of the leaders that they're presenting are the people that are kind of targeting the downtrodden.
Yeah.
And as far as with Ashe and being Ashe and the Darius comparison, it's more of a thing of, like, okay, the Empire's actions versus the Freljordian actions. And it's like, I mean, that's gonna be more for a Darius episode, so I guess we shouldn't.
Yeah, we'll get there. But
stay tuned.
Ashe is definitely a high road taker, and it's referenced in her short stories, referenced in the comic. It's referenced when, Sejuani says, we're no longer friends, we're no longer sisters. And she's like, whatever, but I don't hate you. And then she goes about her path, uniting these smaller tribes to make the Avarosian, essentially empire that all the tribes now hate, as we referenced with the Scar Mother. So that's Ashe is cool, man. And then her card, real quick. So Ashe is a 4-cost 5/3, definitely more of a controlling type card. On attack, she frostbites the strongest enemy. And then once 5 enemies have been frostbitten that game, she flips into a 4-cost 6/4 with the ability that she still does that. And then also if an enemy has 0 power, it can't block. And that's a card that's meant for mid-range to control. You won't see her in an aggro deck. There's no point. This is definitely, hey, I'm taking control of the game and trying to maintain that until the end.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out that it's not going to be an aggro, because like in an aggro deck, it's at that point you should already be like looking for lethal, not trying to flip.
Exactly.
But as far as before we end Ashe's tale,
yeah,
it's one of the dangers as far as her trying to unite all these tribes is that the more people that come in, the more politics start to come into play. And what Ashe is now faced with is that Freljordian tradition dictates that she should be looking to unify 2 tribes together through marriage. Ashe is not interested in that. She's not interested in old tradition or unifying just one tribe with hers. She's trying to unify all of Freljord.
Fiora, yeah.
And so she's like, okay, well, how do I deal with this issue? And that's when she stumbles across this mad lad,
the beefcake himself,
who is in the streets challenging anybody who walks by to a duel. Yeah. He's just like, fight me, 1v1 me, IRL, bro. And
snipers only.
And Ashe is like, what? Who is this mad lad? What's going on here?
Yeah.
He just lost a match and then told the guy to 1v1 him mid lane to prove that he's better. Who is this guy? And it turns out that it was a barbarian from a virtually wiped out tribe by the name of Tryndamere. Hey. And she says, you know what? I will make your nearly extinct tribe safe within the Avarosan. Like, you will officially be Avarosans if you marry me.
Yeah.
And then you will be my only husband.
Yeah.
And this way she circumvents, trying to like piss off other tribes by marrying into a bigger tribe. It keeps a delicate balance.
Yeah.
For the game of the Ice Throne.
And it's a good deal for him, especially from what his tribe went through, right? Like, essentially they were just ambushed.
And yeah,
while minding their own business.
and you know what? Let's get into that. Yeah. Like, who is this Tryndamere guy who is now the barbarian king?
Yeah.
And Tryndamere comes from a part of the Freljord that is the frozen steppes.
Yeah.
Going back to our Game of Thrones comments and us getting sued, he's beyond the wall that the Black Watch is watching.
Yeah.
He is in the thick of it. That's where he grew up. And because of this, you mentioned how the Avarosans were rich in the sense that they have resources. They have a roof overhead. They actually have the means to have a fire.
Yeah.
And Tryndamere grew up not having any of that. So with his tribe, because of limited resources, what they ended up prioritizing as far as for defense instead of armor was making big A swords. I mean, like anybody growing up with the Unreal Tournament games, the BFG, they were making BFS, all right, and the swords were fashioned to look like the Tuskvors, which Sejuani rides upon a Tuskvor named Bristle, but they fashioned swords to look like the teeth of these Tuskvors, of these giant boars, and that's all they had to defend themselves. And otherwise, it was just a fight for survival every day.
Yeah.
And all that lasted until a day came where a dark figure comes into Tryndamere's tribe, and being outside of all of civilization, they're very spiritual as far as just in beliefs of myths and the spirits around them. So they believe that this dark figure is actually a deity that they worshipped and gave offerings to.
Yeah.
So they decide, oh, well, the deity has come to us. We're actually being rewarded. So they greet this dark figure with open arms and are slaughtered. And Tryndamere takes up sword, goes to fight, and gets absolutely destroyed, just like the rest of everyone around him.
Yeah.
And while he is breathing his last, he focuses on the spirit who begins to talk to him. And then all he can make out and all he can remember is laughter from this dark spirit, which later on many league fans will know that the spirit is Aatrox, basically almost like a god of war. And Tryndamere doesn't die. Ares. Boy. But
another lawsuit.
When will let's just hit them all. But so Tryndamere does not die. He ends up waking up, and he is fueled by anger. And I, since we're going on this lawsuit train, you're over here trying to peddle Ashe as Jon Snow. We now have the birth of the Incredible Hulk. All right, he ain't green. He ain't green or nothing. He's just as mad. And Tryndamere is now just a guy that is trying to take these survivors and just survive. Everything is just a fight for survival. Except now, instead of only surviving, now he's just scaring everyone around him because he heals unnaturally fast.
His card scares us. Talk about that, please.
I mean, like the card is like the ultimate finisher.
Yeah.
If you're talking top end finishers in Runeterra, nothing equals Tryndamere, because first off, before he flips, he's an 8/4 with Overwhelm. All right. Look, if there's an 8/4 with Overwhelm on the board, you're taking damage.
Yeah,
you're gonna hurt. It's already scary. But his level up is, if I would die, I level up instead. So you get this threat off the board, and he looks at you. He goes, "JK." And when he flips, unlike the traditional +1/+1 that a lot of champions get, he becomes a 9/9. Not a 9/5, a 9/9 with Overwhelm and Fearsome. So you thought you were chump blocking.
Dude, the quote is amazing, right? Like, don't die for your cause, live for it.
Do not die for your cause, live for it.
Oh, man.
And the art is this man standing with more arrows in him than what some archers have in their quivers. And like 9/9, Overwhelm, and Fearsome. The game is going to be over. All right. Like if it gets removed, you're done.
Yeah.
It's like, because this was clearly your threat. If it doesn't get removed, they're done.
It's a great card.
Bop.
Yeah, it's a bop. It's a bop for real. So that kind of takes us to our fate of the game, right? Where we kind of want to think, where does Freljord stand now as a region? Because at the beginning, when everything first came out, Freljord was looked at as not that great. in comparison to what all the other regions were doing. But as we get more cards, as we get these tweaks and we get like cards revealed like Sejuani, we're starting to see Freljord be a legitimate option. Because if you go on ladder, Hetch mentioned there's a lot of variety, but a lot of it is not Freljord. Like you'll see 1 or 2 decks from time to time, but there's still the other regions getting more love. So do you think there'll be more moving forward with all these little changes?
I think there's going to be more moving forward even before we see a lot of these changes, because at the time of recording, there's already been some buffs that have gone live to a Freljord only mechanic being mana ramp.
Yeah.
And from playing other card games, mana ramp is powerful.
Yeah.
Like the ability to ramp is a very strong mechanic, and there have been some card games that go a little overboard with it. Cough, cough, Magic the Gathering, cough, cough. But it's a thing where before these changes, what was powerful, like truly powerful, and the way the meta shaped up was very linear, and now we're going to see a little more flexibility and things that are guiding more towards mid-range. So anything that can be effective in mid-range is going to have more flexibility, which is going to give us more variety. So
yeah, I agree with that.
It's in an exciting place.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be strong,
Okay.
but it's in an exciting place.
So that being said, with this new strong region, we talk about all these tribes, we leave out the names. I got a surprise for you, Hetch.
One of these days, you can just end the episode.
Like, no music, just a hard cut, and it stops. Right?
So thanks for listening.
So, to wrap up this episode, we're going to name our tribes.
Crap.
And I'll go first. My tribe would be named the Kulak.
Ooh.
Yeah. We would be a financial tribe where we focus on balance sheets, big returns on investments.
Oh my God. What are you investing in this frozen hellscape? Like, okay, so you're just gonna own firewood. Like, that's really that's the only thing, that's the only investment you're gonna make. And then where are you gonna spend this money? Ain't no one other than Freljord
You're
got anything
asking
to
too
sell.
many questions of the Kulak. All right, what's your tribe name?
Oh my goodness gracious. I guess
You said it earlier in an earlier episode. I wonder if you remember.
Oh, did I? Oh no, now I don't remember. Now you put me on the spot. Oh my, yeah. So okay, yeah. So now I just need to think of our lore then.
Your lore, the lore behind the Chungai.
Who is
The Chungai.
the Chungai? So the Chungai. Wait, I got it. Okay, the Chungai.
Yeah.
The Chungai. We're gonna be more of a seafaring people. Like we're in
A frozen sea.
Exactly. All right. So we're positioned where it's like the only thing we've got going for us is like ice fishing.
Okay.
How do we survive? We survive off of walrus fat.
Okay.
All right? Blubber's blubber is all year round.
Yeah.
It's all we've got. It's what we burn our lamps with.
That could be some
It's
cool
what
armor.
we eat.
Walrus armor.
And like with walrus,
Yeah.
with the male walrus reproductive organs, it's actually made of bone instead of cartilage.
Oh.
Which is very different from like other mammals.
Would that be your weapon?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I would be wielding my boner sword from the back of an oversized Poro named Cervantes.
Oh my God. All right. Listen, Hatch never fails.
You had to help me that time. You had to help me.
Dude, you never fail me, and that's why I love this section of the podcast. But as usual, we're done here. Thank you for listening as always, and we'll be back very soon with the next episode.
Looking forward to it, you guys.